Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to tonight's episode of Ask Eman Late Night, where we're here every Saturday between 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock to go through your questions, brothers and sisters, which may be more of an adult nature, things to do with intimacy, maybe drugs and addiction, maybe crime, maybe you'd like advice on a situation that you're embarrassed about, that you can't open up about in the earlier shows. So this is why we have Ask Eman Late Night every Saturday between 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. We took a short break in Ramadan and now we're back again, inshallah. So if you'd like to give us a call to ask your questions, give us a call on 0203 5150 769. And also, as usual, you can send your questions to our WhatsApp number, our email address, and if you're watching along on YouTube, you're able to leave your questions at the comment section. Just to repeat, this show is a chance and opportunity for you to ask questions which are more sensitive, maybe even embarrassing, just to open that door for you to be able to learn more about your life or how to go about some of your affairs and so on and so forth. So the number is the usual number, and now inshallah we'll get started with our show. I'll be your host for today, and joining us is Imam Wasim Kempson. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Pleasure to have you here, Sheikh.
Jazakallah khair, barakallahu feek.
So Sheikh, we start every show, the Saturday late night, by just speaking about, asking you for a reminder about how Islam has the answers for everything, but particularly on this kind of theme of the show, that even those topics which are about more adult themed, things to do with intimacy, things to do with the bedroom between husband and wife, maybe things to do with crime, things to do, if someone's committed a crime and they want to know the solution or the way out of it, they're feeling terrible about it, someone's got an addiction, drugs, alcohol, things like this, that Islam, we don't shy away from this topic. We don't try to bury it. We don't try to say, oh, this is too embarrassing, don't talk about it. Because maybe some communities, some cultures may have a taboo around these subjects. So just a reminder, Sheikh, in terms of, should we be forthcoming about seeking answers and seeking help or answers around these topics?
Sure.
And should we be proactive about it?
Inshallah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise belongs to Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to the brothers and sisters and the viewers at home. As you rightly mentioned, that our deen is, amongst the things you have said before at least, our deen is a religion which, alhamdulillah, and I've mentioned before, covers all aspects of our lives and gives us guidance and pointers for us how to behave and how to interact with the environment that we live in. Now, there are topics which are sensitive, no doubt, but nonetheless we still need answers for them. And we shouldn't shy away from those answers because it could affect matters which are to do with our obligations towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe they are issues of purity, tahara. Maybe it is to do with the relationships that we have with other people. What is halal, what is haram, what is permissible for me, what is not permissible for me. All of these things that go back to the matter of what is pleasing and allowed for us to do in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those things which we should stay away from and that we would be accountable for in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a general point, but I also want to mention another important point, and that is with regards to very sensitive matters that you find in the Quran and likewise in the Sunnah, that there is an adab, there is a manner of asking about certain things, and there is a manner in which how Allah Jalla wa Ala will explain things to us. Likewise the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so an example of this is when the Prophet ﷺ told us an example when ghusl is an obligation upon the husband and wife. Okay, now there's an explicit way of telling that, but the Prophet ﷺ didn't say explicit, but it is clearly understood what is meant. So the Prophet ﷺ said, if the two circumcised parts they touch, فَقَدْ وَجِبَ الْغُسُلِ, then the ghusl or the full bath is an obligation. For this reason, whenever as Muslims, when we ask questions, if at all possible, that I can mention it in a way which is the point, or what I want to ask is understood, without being so brash in how I say things. Because there are certain languages which may cause embarrassment to people. We have to bear that in mind. It's not about, oh, there's no haya, there's no bashfulness or shyness in the religion, because there is, number one. Okay? Al-haya'u min al-iman. Bashfulness and shyness is from iman. But it doesn't mean that you should shy away from the haqq. Okay? So therefore, we should be very clear in what we ask for and what we need to know if there is a need for that. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you, Sheikh. We have some callers waiting on the line, so we're going to take all the questions and then we'll get all the answers from our Sheikh after that, inshallah. So, assalamu alaikum to our first caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sheikh. I'm calling from London. Basically, I wanted to talk about shisha. Why people smoking shisha? What's the reason for that? Also, can you tell me about drugs and alcohol? Why people take this stuff? What's the reason behind it? Can you tell me? I mean, is it because I personally think they cannot face the reality in this world? Like, that's why they've got to take this just to make themselves feel good. You know what I mean? But I mean, the fact is, I mean, this stuff is really damaging people's life. You know what I mean? In terms of people's other people's other people's background, you know what I mean? I think they're destroying them. I mean, these kind of things, they should be stopping. That should be stopped. Especially our own Muslim brothers doing it. You know what I mean? It's so embarrassing, you know, like, seriously.
Yeah.
And just talk about this really. Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. May Allah reward you. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. Allah yabarak feek. Assalamu alaikum to our next caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, it's me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, wait. Mama?
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, sorry. The question from my daughter, because they just turned to 12 and 13 now.
Yeah.
My daughter and my boy. And the problem, when they finish Maghrib Salah, it's nearly their bedtime. So they don't want to, mashallah, miss the Isha Salah, but they have it to wake up for the Fajr as well. So I put the alarm for 3:30 for them. But the problem, if they wake up till Isha, it is very late.
Yeah.
So how can they join for Isha and Fajr Salah together? I mean, they have to qada the Isha. Is that right for them? Because they need to go to school every day in the morning. Otherwise, they can't be active in school.
Yes. All right, then. Thank you so much for calling, sister.
Thank you.
Stay
Assalamu
tuned,
alaikum.
and we'll get you the answer. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So just a quick reminder, this show is more of an adult theme, an adult nature. We're going to be covering topics which may be a bit sensitive for children to listen to or to watch. So if you're comfortable, your children learning about these things, that's completely fine. But do please practice some caution. We don't want to offend anyone, inshallah. So with that, we're going to move on to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Aisha. I'm phoning from Surrey.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. And your question?
Yes, how does one cope with having an overactive bladder to keep the wudu? Am I making myself clear?
Yes, that's very clear. Thank you so much. Do you have another question for us today?
I haven't heard any information on that. Maybe it's been done before, but I haven't heard. So I just want to know what's the...
Okay. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. We'll go to our next caller now. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. My name is Leah and I'm calling from Barking.
You're welcome to the show, sister.
Thank you. My question is, Sheikh, I wanted to ask a question about the material, anything that, or products that have been produced from the Dead Sea. I bought a soap from a harbour shop. Everything was produced from the Dead Sea and it was quite good soap. I spoke to a friend of mine. I discovered this new product is quite good, and he told me we are not allowed Islamically to use anything that is produced from the Dead Sea due to the fact that everything around there has been cast because of the past history. And I stayed in doubt with this question, but if you help me out with this, I'll be very grateful. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for your call. For everyone else watching at home, you can also give us a call. We'll be here up until 11 o'clock for the next 35 minutes. The number to call us on is 0203 515 0769. Our first question, Sheikh, is about, we'll go backwards if that's okay, Sheikh.
As you like.
The product, using products and materials from the Dead Sea, is that permissible?
طيب. Bismillah. So concerning the Dead Sea, there are two views regarding this particular location. Now we know from the Quran itself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent angels to destroy a qawm, to destroy a people who were involved in illicit behavior. I think we're going to come to a break.
Yes, Sheikh.
So what can I suggest that we can maybe take it after the
Yes,
break?
Sheikh.
Jazakallah
Thank you
khair.
so much. For everyone watching at home, we're going to take a short break. As usual, we'll be back after a few minutes, inshallah. So do stay tuned. For now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone watching at home, and welcome back to tonight's Ask Eman Late Night Show. We're here every Saturday between the hours of 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock for 1 hour live to take your questions which are more themed around an adult nature, which we may which may have to do with intimacy between husband and wife, which may do with maybe crimes or major sins, which you'd like to understand how to solve them or how to overcome them, and such things like these that we can't address during the earlier hours on the normal Ask Eman show. So brothers and sisters, you're very welcome to still call and ask normal questions, but also this show is just to encourage us to be able to speak about these topics, to be able to ask questions about them, because maybe others of us need the answers or suffering from something and we need the solution for it. So it's really just to help everyone and to show that Islam and our lifestyle does have the answer for everything, even those topics which may be more sensitive or more embarrassing to speak about, inshallah. So the number is the same number to call us on, and that's 0203 5150 Otherwise, you can send us an email, a WhatsApp question to our WhatsApp number. And if you're watching along on YouTube, you can leave your question at the comment section, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Welcome back after the break. So the question we were on, Sheikh, before the break was about using products or buying products which are produced from the Dead Sea, because there's an idea that this Dead Sea is cursed, something like that.
Okay, Bismillah. What I'd say on this issue, that number one, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not destroy any nation in the past except that they were involved in a form of disobedience which was unacceptable to Allah Jalla wa Ala, and therefore they were removed from this earth. So Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us about the story of Fir'aun and that they were removed. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about Ad and Thamud and the people of Lut. All of these people, these nations, were involved in sins and fawahish, evil and munkar, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deemed from His justice to remove them from this earth. So much so that those nations do not exist anymore. Not one of those people can tell the story as it stands now. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about what happened in the past. Now with regards to the Dead Sea, there are two views, because it is said that Lut alayhi salam, the Prophet Lut alayhi salam, who called his people back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they refused because Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us in Surah Al-A'raf, in verse number 80 onwards. And for the brothers and sisters, they can go back to the Quran and they can find out and see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about, that they are a qawmun musrifun, that they are a wasteful and disobeying people. And we know that inna Allah la yuhibbul musrifin, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love those who are wasters and those who are going beyond the boundaries of Allah Jalla wa Ala. It is deemed, and not without absolute assurity, but it is most likely that this is the place that the Qawm of Lut, the people of Lut, that they were destroyed here at this place. Therefore, the Prophet said, if you go near these places, they're not there for sightseeing, they're not there for selfies, okay? But if you do go there, then weep. Then weep and remember the punishment that occurred to these people at this particular time. So therefore, based upon this, I would say it is better for you to avoid any products that are from these areas, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is best.
Thank you, Sheikh. Our next question was from the sister who asked about how do you deal with an overactive bladder?
Okay, so if a person has an overactive bladder, if they have a medical issue, I would say first and foremost that they should go to see their GP, a doctor, if they have maybe a bladder infection or they have an ongoing issue. If that is the case, then they should, maybe they can't control their bladder. It's not described in the question in any great detail or greater detail. Maybe they can't control their bladder, so they would wear some form of pads or something like that. Then you're excused. So what you would be required to do here is to make wudu just before salah, and regardless of what happens, okay, then you perform your salah like this. If you don't have a medical issue, then of course purity, being in a state of wudu, is necessary. What you can do is delay your prayer to its last time. So you pray dhuhr, maybe it's in its last time, maybe 10 minutes or so before asr, and then you can pray dhuhr and asr together with the one wudu. Allahu A'lam.
Thank you, Sheikh. Our next question from our callers was about Aisha being too late for children to wake up to pray.
Okay. So as it stands at the moment, you have perpetual twilight. meaning that Maghrib comes in, but then the sun doesn't set so much so that the Isha doesn't actually come in. And this starts from, I think it's May 17th or 18th, and it extends all the way to maybe, I think, 24th or 25th of July. Okay, so it's just over 2 months in the year that you have perpetual twilight. Now, Maghrib will go as far as maybe 9:25, if you're in London, that is. If you're further north, then it will go further, it'll go a bit more than that. So what you can do, because there's issues if the children have to stay up and they've got school the next morning, this will last for, about 2 months. So then what they can do, as an exception to the rule, is that some of the ulama have allowed that for the young children, and not for the adults, because if they can stay awake, they should, and leave a gap between Maghrib and Isha, even though it's a little gap. For the young children, that they can pray their Maghrib and they can pray their Isha straight after that, inshallah ta'ala. And maybe on the weekends, when they don't have to go to bed straight away, if that's what's permitted in the home, then they can maybe leave 20 minutes or half an hour after Maghrib, and then they can pray Isha after that. No.
Thank you, Sheikh. Our next question was from our brother who asked, why do people smoke shisha?
Why do people smoke it? I mean, there are many reasons why people will smoke it. Maybe they like to smoke, they like the environment that they think that they're in, and maybe they're addicted to the shisha because it has tobacco in it, nicotine, and that's an addictive substance. But moreover, why people are doing it, what's the ruling concerning it? And we said it's not allowed, it's major, it's haram for people to be involving them smoking shisha, which contains the nicotine. Because tobacco, because it causes many illnesses, and you can, if a person was to buy a pack of cigarettes, it's written, this is a danger to your health, this can cause cancer. This isn't from Muslims telling you, this is from the NHS, National Health Service, telling you this is a great danger, you should stay away from it. And so therefore, Islam tells us not to harm ourselves. So the smoking of shisha, we say, is not allowed. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Now, the issue is nicotine, right, Sheikh? When it comes to smoking.
Yeah.
So now we find that there are things which don't contain nicotine, like probably they call them vape. Vape, I don't know what they call them, vape guns or whatever they're called. I don't even know what they're called. And then you have shisha that maybe doesn't have nicotine. Now, Sheikh, how do we understand dealing with this issue? Because it's a bit strange where we try to take something which in its appearance and we know is haram, and then we say no, it doesn't have the elements that are haram, this is a version which is halal.
Right.
For example, we have these bottles or beer bottles which, you know, they've come out and they look like the beer, or the name is the beer, it is the beer, but it doesn't have the elements which make it haram. Now, should we not run away from these things, you know, because they look like it, they taste like it, it just doesn't have the element of haram, though these things come from the things that are haram. You know, why are we on this borderline, you know, wanting these things to begin with? Why don't we run away from them completely?
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. So what I want to do is there are times where the actual item itself, we don't have proof to say it is haram. Okay, so if a person there is a shisha technically, it doesn't have any nicotine in it, no haram substances, okay, at all, or drinks, for example, that have no haram substances in it, that in of itself, we cannot say it's haram, because on what basis are we saying it's haram? طيب. However, where these things may be consumed, the places, which is by and large what they're going to be doing, then the environment can have an effect on the ruling. So if a person says, well, I'm going to a shisha place, I myself, I'm not drinking alcohol. I myself, I'm not smoking the shisha which has the nicotine. I'm doing the halal version of it. Which, okay, that may be what you're consuming, but what about the environment? Is that halal for you? That is also something taken into consideration. So the fact that you're sitting at a place where people are drinking alcohol, major, is not allowed for you to do that. Or, for example, you're sitting at a place where people are in front of you doing something which is haram. For example, smoking the shisha, for example, but your version is, you have the halal version, if you like. But your environment makes it not permissible. Okay? So we separate, not just because a person says, well, this thing is okay, it's halal, so wherever I do it, then it doesn't matter. No, the environment that you are in, that will have an impact on on the ruling that we are talking about. Okay, so it's important that when we explain things, we want to break it down, but people not to be overly oversimplify the matter. To say, well, this is not haram. I'm not consuming anything haram, but the place that you are in, is this something befitting for you? Okay, Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We're nearing our break, so I'll go to a question and then I think we'll come back to this quickly. Next question, Sheikh, is oral sex halal since we use our mouth to praise Allah?
Yeah. So on this issue, the general ruling is it is permissible for the spouses to enjoy each other's company, even in this manner. Okay, and I know that some of the ulama say it's disliked because you're mentioning. They have the right to say it's disliked, but however we say it is permissible, but beware of any impurities that may come out. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you. This brings us to our break. We're going to take a break for a few minutes and then we'll be back shortly, inshallah. For now, stay tuned. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the last part of today's Ask Men Late Night show. Just a reminder that this show is of an adult nature. We discuss things like substance abuse, things like intimacy, things like crime or major sins. So this show is here every Saturday from the hours of 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So we're sure that more adults are watching and maybe children are not watching. If you do have any children watching, then practice caution. We may touch on some topics which may be a bit sensitive to their ears, so be warned. Other than that, if you have any questions, we encourage you to give us a call. If they're things of an embarrassing nature, a sensitive nature, don't be shy about it. This is the point of the show, is to give you the opportunity to get answers for these questions, and also to benefit anyone else who may have these questions as well. So the number to call us on is the usual number, and that's 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you have our WhatsApp number, email address, and if you're watching along on YouTube, you can leave your questions at the comment section, inshallah. Welcome back after the break, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi.
With that, we're going to go to our next caller. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Wa alaikum salam. My name is Maruf from London.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Maruf. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And your question?
Yeah, so my question, apologies for the context of it, but it's something that I'm finding it difficult to find an answer for.
Okay.
It's regarding, for those people around the world who are going through oppression, persecution and difficulty. Now, some of them are being forced out of Islam, not from their own will, but out of torture, out of pain, whatever they're having to go through. And some of them are even being brainwashed out of Islam. Now, what is their judgment? Because it's not their fault. It's not something that they are willingly wanting to do. And there's also, you read of people who are committing suicide to get out of the situation. Now, obviously, we know that Islam teaches us not to commit suicide. However, we need to be considerate of their situation. So what is their judgment? Because these kind of things really, these things I'm constantly having to think about nowadays. It causes a lot of anxiety. So I just wanted to know what their situation is.
Thank you so much for your call, Brother Ma'ruf. May Allah reward you. Stay tuned for the answer, inshallah. First of all, Sheikh, may Allah help our brothers and sisters across the world that are suffering, that are in depression. It's really difficult and heavy to bear on the heart when you think about these things. But yes, the brother asked about people that are forcibly forced to leave Islam.
Yeah, subhanallah. So first and foremost, I ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to protect and make easy the trials and tribulations and the fitan that many of our brothers and sisters are going through around the world. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us so that we can help others. That's extremely important. It's okay understanding and pointing out that others are going through difficulty, but then there's a test for us. What are we going to do to try and help our brothers and sisters? So this is something we need to think about. Now, as for the ruling on people or whoever's going through such a difficult situation, I think that we will know what the situation is. That ultimately we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just, and that no individual, no human being will be oppressed in this life, nor in the hereafter. And if a person is driven to something which on the face of it deems is haram, you're not allowed to do that. We don't know what has led a person to do that particular action. Let's say, for example, suicide. Subhanallah al-Azim. Yes, it is haram, and it's from the major sins. But if a person has gone to such oppression and they've almost lost their mind and things like that, then we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive them. It doesn't mean there's no forgiveness for them. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive them and give them strength before they would get into such things. It's not for us to pass judgment where they're going on Jannah or paradise or hellfire. We don't know this, but we assume we know that they are Muslims, and any Muslim who passes away, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them, to have mercy upon them, and to make it easy for them in the next life. It's not an easy topic to talk about in any great depth because of the nature of the program we have, but the importance of making Muslims aware of injustices all around the world is extremely important, so that we can try to do what is necessary to ensure that people are able to live on earth in a way that they want to live, without being forced to do something against their will. Allahu A'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Thank you for your answer. Our next question, Sheikh, is are a husband and a wife allowed to role play when it comes to their intimate relations? Take on different characters.
It's clear. The question's clear. So yeah, I mean, it's a very general question, to be honest. Yes, what happens between them in their bedrooms, okay, is permitted for them, okay. What I would say, that there are certain guidelines, okay, that if a person is if you're going to act between the husband and wife, that they wouldn't, for example, behave as a criminal, okay, or a person is known for haram. Don't do that. Don't behave like a person who's known for haram, or a person who commits haram. You shouldn't do that. But if you want to do other things which to excite each other and things like that, then in essence there's nothing prohibiting that. It's allowed for you to do. Maybe it's encouraged for the spouses to do that. But just bear in mind that with role play, that you're not going to get involved in and try to reenact things which are haram, okay, or behave like criminals or evil or wrong. People involved in wrongdoing, okay. Other than that, which is permissible, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Thank you, Sheikh. Just a quick reminder to everyone watching at home that Ask Eman Late Night is of an adult nature. This show is here to be able to address topics and questions which are to do with intimacy, with major sins, with addictions, substance abuse, and so on. So we do want you to practice caution when watching the show. If it's something that offends you, then please do switch the channel. If you have any children watching, then again, please practice caution. We will be going through topics which many people want the answers for. And we also invite you to ask these questions as well, just so we can give you the answers to help everyone, but also to show that Islam doesn't shy away from these topics and does have the solutions for them and the answers for them. So if you have any questions, do give us a call and pick up the phone. The number is going to be the usual number, 0203 515 0769. Our next question, Sheikh, is the practice of Kama Sutra allowed in Islam?
Okay, so this is a book that was written or compiled in India, and it is different, if you like, sexual positions between the two spouses, husband and wife. Some of them are based upon and remembrance and enacting things which are to do with shirk. So we need to be aware of that. But naturally, the husband and wife are free to have different positions in their intimacy. That's absolutely fine. And we have an example of this from the Sunnah, actually, that there was a certain type of intimacy was kind of culturally not known to many of the Muslims in Mecca. Then they was practiced in Medina, and then some of the people of the communities in Medina said, if you have relations with your wife in a certain position, then they will have an effect on the child. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses in Surah Al-Baqarah that it is allowed for the spouses to approach each other in a way that is is to them, really. It's up to them how they want to do that, okay? But with regards to this particular Kama Sutra, you should be aware that there are certain kind of positions in that, sexual positions, which are have a link to shirk, polytheism, which is something we need to be aware of, and obviously not participate in that kind of thing, because it has basis in in polytheism. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you, Sheikh. Our next question is, are you allowed to pray after intimacy, but if you haven't reached climax?
Okay. So if the two spouses, they have intimacy and the private parts, the male private part enters the female private part, then it goes in, and then therefore we say ghusl is required. Okay, ghusl is required, even though he may not or she may not have climaxed. If the male private part enters into the female, then they would need to perform ghusl. So they perform ghusl, and then they can pray after that. Wallahu a'lam.
Now, Sheikh, we say, as you said earlier, it's understood that anything which a man and a woman do in private, a married couple in private, is up to them, and their business, meaning whatever they want to enjoy with each other is up to them. Right. But are there any set of clear guidelines in terms of what is categorically not allowed to do? Yeah. In terms of a set of things, just so people know they're behaving in certain boundaries.
Okay, so if we understand that intimacy between the husband and the wife is a source of happiness between them, okay, is enjoyment between them. And generally in Islam, you find that when there are things for entertainment, we're not told how to be happy. In that particular action, you do it like this, okay? So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Quran, we find in the Sunnah, we're told this is what is haram, and everything is allowed for you, okay? So for example, we know that there are many narrations concerning a man having sexual intercourse through the back passage of his wife is haram, is not allowed. In fact, it is mal'oon. This is one action that is not permitted, okay, to have sexual intercourse in the anus. This is haram. Other than that, we say that it is allowed for the husband and wife to enjoy each other as they like. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do what is pleasing to Allah Jalla wa ala. And may Allah protect us all.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for joining us today. Thank you. We'll be back, inshallah, on Monday's episode for the live show starting at 7 o'clock, 7:30, inshallah. For now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.